All right, welcome everybody. It is 9/19/2020. We're about to get started on the watch list. Just want to do a quick review of last week's watch list. If you guys have any questions, throw them in. I was 100% on earnings trades last week. I was able to nail them. Chewy worked. Espas Fitch worked once already. I'm currently in one. I got in on live trading on Friday, so we'll see if it works for the run into the earnings next week. So Nike, I haven't been able to grab. I tried getting it on the run up, and we'll talk a little bit more about that for next week. Lennar actually made me work my patience because it actually went against me, but it came back. And this often happens, guys, when they go against you and they go against the stats. If you look at market millions data on Lennar, so this, you see how it says 83% and 75% is the stats? Well, it went against it. It went against the stats. It had great earnings, and we got down here. So I was playing this through. So the earnings were good. We're approaching the lower Bollinger Band. I actually added here. No, it's here. So it was here, right here. So I actually added on this dip and was able to get out the same day with profits. So, just that goes to your risk tolerance, your sizing. Make sure you're not too big so you don't freak out if a trade goes against you and you can work yourself out of it. All right. Here's last week's watch list. So KB Homes, same idea, same thing. I didn't play this. Chart-wise, McDonald's worked. So UPS kind of, it popped up because of FedEx and then sold off. Same idea. PGR worked, and I'm still going to be looking at it. Z, I've played multiple times. It's still going to be on the watch list. And Penn was the big winner. I almost got a 10-bagger. I think I ended up with 900% win on Penn from last week. So, guys, always keep these watch lists. Just go back and look at them so you can get the idea of what the TPS charts look like. All right, so now let's jump to this week. And if you guys have any questions or if you have a watch list of things you want to go on, throw them in chat and I'll put them in. So you're in John Carter's class? Yeah. I was listening to that as well, Josh. I don't know if you noticed, but John Carter I think he copied me on one of my tradings. I said, hey, there is no spoon. So, there is no top, there is no bottom. You have to convince yourself there is no spoon. And John Carter used that exact phrase. It's pretty funny. I was listening to it as well, Josh. Okay, so Efren, great question. Okay, so Efren, the main reasons I added on Lennar. Let's bring this thing back over. So were the earnings good on Lennar, Efren? Do you remember? They were great, right? They're crushing it. So why do you think it got down? Why do you think it went against its stats? Yeah, it's priced in. Sorry, I didn't have my headphones on. Let me find who's not muted. Raven, I'm muting you, Raven. Let's see. Mute. For some reason I can't mute Raven. Mute all. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure out how to mute Raven. For whatever reason, it's not allowing me. So, Efron, the price was, quote unquote, it was priced in, right? So for me, the stats, pull back Lennar. So the stats were, okay, 83% gap, earnings move positive, 75% positive, 58% drift. All right. So we went against those stats. If we went against those stats because it was a bad earnings report, you just have to be able to say, you know what? I was probably wrong. And if you try to add and get back in, then yeah, you can take your hit, take your loss. But I wasn't willing at that point to take a loss because I still thought, you know what, we're going to bounce. These are good earnings. The numbers are great. Nothing has changed fundamentally. People are just selling off. And the other thing to remember is when you put in plays, Efron, so look down here on Lennar. So what you want to see, right? We got down to a low of 74.65. Do you see this range right here, Efron? Do you see this 74 range? So this is me playing the ranges, right? I play ranges. And we were coming down to that range. I actually had a naked put that I'd sold earlier at, I believe it was 70, and then I had one at 75. The 75, I don't think was naked. I hedged against it, but this was the range. So you're asking, okay, well, how do you know when's your stop loss? These are the numbers that I use, right? So the low was 74.65. We're not even outside of the move that's supposed to happen. Does that make sense? So we are still within that range. That means the stock's still in play. If we got down to 72, 70, it was horrible earnings. Yeah, that destroys the whole play. But the play was still good because the earnings were good. We're still within the price range. In fact, this is giving us a good buy opportunity towards the 74. And let's see. I'm trying to move. Let's see. There we go. And the other thing, Efren, is do you see the open? Do you see how all the numbers lined up? Do you see 76 on P90 right here? That was about the open. I had, you're guessing it right where it's about to open. Look, do you see how that's 74? That's 74. So 74 is kind of like acting as big support, right? And so that's what I was playing against. I was playing against, 74 should act as support. Does that answer your question, Efren? Does that clear it up? You should be seeing this Excel sheet. So on cell T90, you'll see 74. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 73.80. I'm rounding up to about $74. Yeah, exactly, Efren. If they didn't hold earnings, if they're like, oh, you know what, we can't get wood, it's too expensive, we're gonna have to cut this and that and all this other stuff, you would have dropped even more, and the play would have been broken. And that's when you take your acceptable loss. So in column F, so this right here, let me pull up. So 78.7 was just me putting in what I do is before closes and right before the market close, I don't know exactly what it's going to close at. So if I'm putting on a trade, I have to decide, where do I think this is going to close? I've got 5 minutes left. Right now, we're currently at 78.70. So I put that in there to put on my trades. So that's if I'm doing an options trade, I can't wait until the exact close to figure out where we're closed at. So I'm just guessing we're going to close around 78.70, and we closed at 79. So that 79. You put that in, and that changes it. So that was the correct close, but at the time, I was just trying to figure out where we're going to close to give me a range to play with my options. Does that make sense? Yeah, Rody. So what I'm doing is I'm literally looking at these real time, and I'm like, okay, do I want to put on a trade right now? And if I do, I want to go towards the 74 range. And so a lot of times what I do on these plays is I'm like, all right, I'll put in a buy order at the bottom of these ranges and short orders at the top of the ranges. So literally, if the earnings is after market close, and the range is 84, I'll have a short order in at 84, and if the other range is 74, I'll have a buy order in there. So whatever way we go, I'm going to be playing it. I'm going to be playing the ranges. So that's you kind of have to guess what it's going to be within the last 5 minutes. And the same thing with the open. You know, you're waiting for the actual open. You know, you'll be hovering between 75, 50, 76, and so you're just putting it in to say, okay, this is where I think, because that's where you get the majority. Your quick moves are, you know, for the chart, it's going to shoot up right after opening. I mean, right after the earnings report, or shoot down, and you want to catch those because you can make as much money as you do in one day in 15 minutes. So they'll be like, boop, pop up, you hit it, and it comes back in. So that's what those numbers are. You're just kind of feeling it out. All right, so let's jump over to the watch list. So for those that have asked for access to the Excel workbook, I'm still working on it, guys. I'm having issues. I'm not very computer smart when it comes to certain things. Carlos, yeah. So can you ask me that when I'm done going through this? Just remind me to answer that when I get towards the end. I'm having a little issues with me adjusting it, not in the workbook, not on this OneDrive Live. I'm trying to adjust it in my Excel sheet, and for some reason it's not catching. So I'm still working on that. But when I've got it set up, I'm going to give everybody access to this, so you'll be able to still see real-time changes. As soon as I type something in, you'll see it. So, all right, let's get to this week's watch list. So one of them that I'm really looking at is Nike, right? So you can see the chart on Nike. It's given us a nice pullback. And what I'm looking for on Nike you can see it on line 95. So right now we're at 114.66. Let me update the implied move here, make sure it's exactly right. All right, so 6.8 is saying the current implied move is 6.8 on Nike. So you see how it's dropped? All right, so we're pulling in, it's dropping. So that's the current, this is the current, as of today, range that Nike is playing. So what I'm looking to do, if you look at the stats on Nike, do you see this right here for Nike? This is 1 day after, 2 days after, 3 days after, and 2 weeks after, right? So it's got positive occurrences in the 75% range, which is great. So what does that tell you? That says, okay, so I'm looking for a run after Nike's earnings. Now, again, if Nike comes out and says, hey, we sucked it up this quarter, you know, we're going to go down, well, that's going to destroy the trade. But if Nike comes out, they're in line or they're close to it, or they beat, you should get this historical run. But what I'll tell you is I played Nike a lot. Nike tends to drop. Like what it'll do is right when earnings comes out, it'll drop down real quick, and then it'll sort of pop back up and sort of fade off the next day. And that's where this 33% drift comes in. if you look at let's see. You see this column right here, K37 for Nike? What that means is when Nike opens on the day of earnings, like once they open, they're going to close below their open. They're going to go negative, right? 70% of the time, or 67 if you want to be exact, right? So I'm going to be looking to play this through, meaning I'm going to play through the earnings, and I'm going to be selling puts. It'll probably be naked puts for me because I'm a long-term investor. But if you're looking more for spreads, the ranges that I found that I like are 111, 110. You see you've got some support here. And then there's a huge support at 103 to 100. And then there's another smaller support around 105. So those are the three support zones that I'm looking to play. And so what I might do is I'll sell a 100 by 105 vertical put spread, because if I can put the shares at 103, I'm fine with that, and I'll take the premium. Because I'd expect the bounce, right? A bounce back up with those 75%. So does that make sense? Any questions on Nike or what I'm? Yeah, I am. I'm going to play. I might do just pure naked. So what I do, Efren, on those is I'll compare the pricing, right? I'll say, okay, what can I get for a 105, 100? You know, and if they give me whatever, a $2 credit, a $1.50 credit, then I'll look and I'll say, well, what if I just do the 100 naked? And if I can get a dollar credit for the 100 naked versus a $1.50 credit for the 105, 100 spread, I'll just go with the naked. So that's kind of how I play these. But guys, things to pay attention to is the chart, right? I'm not going to be in a rush to get this set up on Monday, because if you look at Nike, their earnings are September 22nd after market close, right? So technically September 23rd. So let's look at the stats. 2 days before, 58, 1 day before, 75, right? So what I want to see, you see this is a shooting star, right? We've got downward pressure. What I would like to see is if Nike can start finding a base. You know, if I could set this up at 113, around the 21, or even 111, 112, if I can set it up down there, how much better would that be, right? The odds would be even more in my favor. So that's what I'm looking for. And the way I do that is I would currently go look at the pricing. So if we pull up E-Trade, if we went to Nike and we said, hey, let's look and see what we can get for a spread, and let's just say we're doing one contract so we can see the pricing, and we're looking at September 25th, and we want to look at 100 by 105. So right now it's telling me I can get 55 cents for that. Okay, so that's not good enough for me. I don't like that. I want closer to $1, right? So I want this chart to pull to about 113 to 112. So what I'll do is I'll put in what I call the fishing orders, right? So I'll say, you know what? If I can get $1 for this, I'm all about it. Submit. And there you go. Orders in, right? If I get filled, great. If I don't, then I'm just going to watch the chart, and I'm going to see if I can do a naked. So if I was going to do a naked at 100, right now it's telling me it's a 25-cent credit. Same thing. I would say, you know what? I'll take Nike at 99.50 or 99.25. So I put that order in as well. Let's check it out, Rob. So Rob's asking about symmetry in chat. Which one are you playing off of, Rob? Is it this one? So we've got a symmetry line here of at about, trying to get these exact here. About 113. So yeah. So do you see how Rob gave us some more information? Great teamwork. All right, Rob says, hey, symmetry for this last pullback is 113. There you go. There's a risk we can play off of, right? Let's see if we can get it to 113. And if we can put on different plays. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in an alert for next week for 113. I'm going to do actually 15 to let me know that's getting down there to that symmetry level. Because what I'll play off of that symmetry level, guys, is these stats. You see the 75% one day before? That means on September 22nd, that 75% of the time we end green. So let's say we open up here on September 22nd at 113.81, and we come down to 113. Well, shoot, I got symmetry, I got stats, I've got a support level here. You got three things in your quiver to take a shot at, right? And you've got a great risk reward. Thanks for that, Rob. Great play. I love it. All right. Wayne, in the market mini stats, is that run on Nike after the earnings 75% only on the first day, and after then flat stays around 75% through the next 2 weeks? Great question. So what you do on these stats, let me actually pull up Market Chameleon here. So what your theory, Wayne, is correct, right? So in theory, what you're saying is, what Wayne's question was for everybody watching, well, is this 75% up? This is telling you on day one, hey, we're 75% up from earnings. Now, is this telling you that we're 75% up from after day one? No. It's just telling us that we're up 75% from earnings. Same thing here, right? Now, 67 and 75%. So what is this telling you? So overall, Wayne, if we do a vertical put spread after earnings, it's pretty safe, right? We can theta it to death. Then you look at percentages. So do you see these percentages? You see how they move? So on Market Chameleon, you can see 0.07, 1.1, 1.5, but you can also come in here and you can do custom ranges. So if you have a subscription to this, you can come in and you can say 1 day, let's go 1 day after to 2 days after. 58%. You see that? So 58% of the time and 0.4. Well, how do we already do that, right? Because of this. See the difference in the two? So what is the custom range going to be for 3 days after? So you add that 0.08 to that 0.07, and you get this 1.5. So do you see how you can see the stats, Wayne? So your theory is correct. You just use these percentages to tell you what exactly is happening. So if I did, 1 week out here, who can tell me what it's going to be? Tell me what this column is going to say for 1 week out. Can anybody tell me? Just looking at these, you should know the answer, right? So you compare this number to this number. Is it positive or is it negative? And it's up 0.0, it's 0.1, right? So you set the range and it's rounding up to 0.2, right? So we know. And if you go for 2 weeks after, it's simply the difference. It's going to be, what is that? So that would be 0.9. So you see how you can do that? You can figure all that stuff out in your head. And you use these percentages for it. And that's how you determine, Wayne, what you want to do. Do I want to put on a vertical put spread? Do I want to buy a long call? Do I want to get in shares and do a call buy right? It's all based off of these stats. So you can see that for 3 days in a row, we actually go up. And that's what I want to play, right? So we go up 7.7, 0.4, 0.4, and that's what I want to try to catch, those 3 in a row. So I hope that answers your question. And great question and great thinking. Yeah, Harry, so that's a great question, Harry. And Harry's question, for those watching the recording, is with Amazon, Peloton, and Lulu being weak and XRT sitting on edge, any risk of Nike being tainted more than usual by the overall retail outlet? Of course, right? Of course, there's that chance. If you look at Nike, though, just look at the chart of what it's been doing during this in the market, right? So Nike's actually fared pretty well. So look at Amazon, looks just like the SPY. Look at Lulu, looks just like the SPY, right? It's the exact same chart. But then look at Nike. What's the difference, right? So Harry, what I see from this is divergence. Now, do you see this shooting star and this increased volume here? Is this starting something bigger? It could, absolutely. That's why you have risk tolerance, right? For me, to play the 1 day, it's going to be, if I buy around the 113 area, I would look for 112-ish to 1. I'd have to zoom in more on this. My big screen shows me better detail on this. So ultimately, I'd be looking, yeah, you 112 area should hold. So that would be my risk tolerance. I'd be risking $1 to make 5 or 6, bucks, or maybe even 3, a 1 for 3 odds. Does that answer your question, Harry? Justin's question. So your theory on Nike is play long day prior to earnings for that 75% chance of going green up to earnings, and then a vertical put spread through earnings. I'm not playing Nike, new to your method, and just want to understand the setup my own plays in the future. Justin, yeah, so I don't know if you've seen the video or not, but I did a play on how I play earnings and what I do, and so I have different methods of playing through. But yes, so there's a few plays here on Nike for me. I'm a long-term investor in Nike. Any weakness that Nike shows into earnings, I will buy up for a longer-term investment. Ideally, if Nike can come down into this 100 range, I'm a long-term investor and buyer. So what that means is I'm comfortable selling a naked put around that area because I'll take the shares. I'll take Nike around 100. Now, if I can't get a good enough premium for it, I may need to move it up or wait for Nike's price to move down. If Nike's price can move down next week a couple dollars, then I will be able to put on a vertical put spread around these ranges. Let me pull up the Excel sheet. So yes, that is my method. I use these ranges, which is the implied move, right? The other thing that I pay attention to, Justin, is do you see the 6.8 implied move? Do you see how it's bigger than the absolute average move and the absolute average gap? If those are closer together, then no, I'm not about playing them. I want to be on the 90% win rate. And I also want to see what Nike does. Does it normally go outside of its range? And when it does, how far, right? How far does it go out? Either up or down if I'm playing both. And so what I'll do, what you can do on Nike is if you're like, all right, if you're on Harry's side and think, well, I think we're actually going to get a pull down on Nike, you can try to time these and you can sell iron condors. You can sell the top side up here before we drop, right? So that's what I actually did on FedEx. So what I did on FedEx is I actually sold a vertical put spread back here for the run into it and to play it through. And then I sold in topside iron condor here on these days, and I was actually underwater when it popped up, but I was patient with it and it came back in, and I was a winner on it. So there's a million different ways you can play this, and I explain it more in the video. I combine data, technical analysis, and where we are as a market to put on plays. And so for Nike, that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to play that. All right. Let's see. Excel sheet here. So what I'll say to you guys, do you guys see any other plays? Let me hide these columns here. Do you guys see any other plays that you like? You know, you've got this pattern here of running up. I'm in Stitch Fix to try to catch a little pop, but I will be out. Do you see these earnings plays? So I'll be out of Stitch Fix. I'm also playing KB Homes. You can see I got it highlighted. I love this run up. But keep in mind what happened with Lennar, right? So do you see this date, 9/15 on Lennar? Well, look what happened on KB Homes. This was on the watch list last week, and I told you, hey, just be aware. So here we gap down. So perfect opportunity for me because I know I'm going to be playing it to get long on KB Homes. So I'm currently in position, right? I'm in a good position on KB Homes, but I'll probably be adding to this to try to catch this opening gap of 83%. Now, if you look at the market cap between KB Homes and Lennar, it's quite different. So just be aware of that. So drift plays, for those that don't know what drift plays are, it's simply open from the opening gap to the drift. They drift up 75% of the time. These two do. So we've got full and ACN. What I'd be looking for here is you would like to see the stats follow, right? 25% day before going down, and then you see an opening gap down. So if we see an opening gap down on these two, I would be looking to play for the drift up. They would be day trades. That's when you come in here and you put in the information for ACN, and you would say, all right, ACN normally gaps down and then drifts up. So for a day trade, I would look at the stock patterns, and its open to low is 1.1%, and its open to high is 3.7%. So you put that in here, open to high, 3.7, open to low, it's 1.1. Let's see. I don't know why it's so. Let's go. There we go. So let's say ACN opens up at 230. What I would look to do is I would, oh, that's why it's not filling down. I would try to catch this. I would try to catch this drift down to 1.1 and get long at about 227. Does that make sense? So what I'm looking to do here is, if this gaps down, if this follows the pattern that we've been following, and we open at, let's say, 230, I would be looking to catch a 1.1% move down to try to play it long. That's how you play drifts, guys. That's all drifts are. That's just a day of move. It's only the day of. So let's get back to September. So those are full and ACN. I'm going to throw those on the watch list. And I'll take pictures of these and with all the updated data and include it in the watch list once it's sit out. Full and ACN for drift plays. Normally gap down and run up to close. 75% drift. Now, keep in mind, guys, if we gap up, if these gap up and they crush earnings or something, then it changes the formula, right? Well, is it still going to drift positive? Well, not if it's up, 10% or whatever in this market. Things have been selling off. If anything was going to hold, it would have been RH, right? That short float. But even RH couldn't hold. So if it gaps up, it's going to be a little bit different story. That's why you have to be flexible with these plays. All right. There's not a lot of earnings, coming up for us to play. But the other things that I'm looking at, you see Costco, stats. What do you guys think I'm looking at for Costco? Stupid thing. So ACN is here. Where did it do? Oh, it did it on here. Thank you. Yeah, it did that on Excel for me like 5 times. I had to keep adjusting it. Um, yeah. So short Costco. That's what everybody's saying, right? Well, okay. Let's look at it. So guys, what this is combining them, right? This is saying, you know what? So for me, we're already running down on Costco. Like it just, well, dang. So what I'd be looking for on Costco, September 22nd, aftermarket close. You know what? I mean, from highs, look at this. We're already down 8% here. Now, is there more room to go? I don't know. Nobody knows. So here, I'm going to pull this over and kind of build out some support levels on the volume profile. So we got a big one at about 325. We've already broken this one. We're trying to set one up here. Yeah, so this is kind of how I see Costco. Maybe we make a head and shoulders here, shoulder, head, pop, come down. The stats are telling us, guys. So let's look at before. What does Costco normally do beforehand? 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 58, 42. So what does that tell you? Just the math lesson we just went over. Well, it's not going straight down, right? It's not going down. And so 2 weeks ago would have been the 9th on Costco. So let's see if we're following those stats. Yeah, we are. So we're actually following the stats. So yeah. So what I would be looking to do here, guys, is to short a pop into Costco. You can't chase these move down, right? So if Costco gives us an opportunity, I would be willing to sell a vertical call spread. Can anybody tell me what this? I'm willing to sell a vertical call spread if what? All right, if it has to do with what I teach you guys about this front page, right? I'm going to be looking at Costco's implied move. If I can get a good credit because the implied move is high. So let's look at Costco. All right, so I'm going to compare. They've got 6.3. So let's bring it back to the worksheet here. Costco 6.3. So compare this 6.3 to the absolute average gap and the average move. Guys, for me, the risk reward isn't there. Your average move is 8.6 and it's 6.3, right? So right now that it's just not worth it. However, in a down market where we are, if I can get a pop, let's look at Costco's price right now. It's 336 basically. So 336. So that's telling us the range is 357. All right, well, let's look. Do we have resistance at 360 area? I'm going to zoom in and at the 360 area. So there's this 357. I'm just going to put that in. All right. So yeah, it actually is. It's kind of buttoned up against. You guys see this? when I bring it to the bigger screen, it's a little bit higher. So you do have some resistance up there. So if I can get this, if I can bet against that 360 mark, if I can get a good enough credit against that 360 mark right here, definitely, I'll definitely take that. And this is why I win 90% of the time, guys. Like ultimately, if you want to go with the stats, you can buy an at the money, and your risk reward is going to be 50-50. So if you did a 5-wide spread, so let's just hypothetically say here, I'll get Mr. Squiggles out. If Costco, hey, it gives us a little pop, and it comes up to here, you could sell right here a 340 by 345 and get like 250 for it, and then you're risking 250 to lose 250, and you're playing the stats that it's going to gap down, and that's a great way to play it, and you can do that. I personally don't do that. I win 90% of the time because I take 90% wins, and that's up here, right? So different ways you can play it. For me, I'm gonna wait to see if I can get a pop and sell a. Yeah, I'm not gonna do naked. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna do it. I probably won't do naked. But I like the play if I can get a pop. All right, so Costco, vertical call spread, need to get a pop. Fell into the 60 range. All right, so that's kind of what I'm looking at for Costco. There's others in here that you can do for. Do you see MTN? You see on MTM right here how we just kind of fade off. So if you want to do a vertical call spread on MTN for a couple weeks out after their earnings, that would be a great play. Now, the thing to remember about this play is it's a much safer play. Well, why is that? Because earnings have already come out. And so if we go to MTN and we look at option strategies and we said, all right, well, what do we normally do on day of earnings? What's a good win rate? Well, you can see the shorting of the 25 delta call, the shorting at the money call, all these have high win rates because of these stats that I just showed you. So a safe bet on MTN would be to let the earnings come out, read the report and make sure there's nothing, saying, hey, we're gonna open our casinos and we're gonna make all kinds of money now, so everybody jump on board. If it's the same old things, it's like, all right, well, it normally fades off. Do a vertical call spread on it for 2 weeks out. So again, you guys are more than welcome, and I encourage you to use this Excel sheet to come up with your own plays. Now, MU, do you guys see MU here? MU, for whatever reason, I don't know why. It's like people don't like MU, Micron. I don't know why. People are all about AMD, NVIDIA, Intel. But for whatever reason, it's like the black sheep of the tech family. But I've played it a few times on earnings, and historically, let me pull it up here. These stats usually hold. You usually get same thing here, guys. You see, wait for this gap up. So on MU, what I'm looking to do is let the ER come out. Use day of stats to get short. And you only have to hold it for a few days for these stats to hold true. And here's MU stats. So let's just hypothetically say MU opens at $50. I would use these stats here, right? So if it opened at $50 I would look to get short around 51.20, especially if there is a resistance here on the chart. So you see how I'm combining all three? Oh, really? Oh, Victor has a theory on it. So yeah, so yeah, that could be it. Carlos, with a shortened ski season last year, an uncertain one this year, shouldn't this be shorted? Which one is that? Which one are you talking about, Carlos? MTN? Yeah, yeah. So Carlos, what you're doing there, right, is you're saying, all right, how else can I better this thesis? And so that's what we're looking to do on MTN, right? So here, man, that's wonderful information. So here, I'm going to put that in here. I'm just going to, with a shortened ski season last year, an uncertain one this year. There we go. Carlos. There you go. Carlos's idea. That yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. No, put more fuel on fire. Oh, that's interesting, Victor. That's really interesting information. And you think that's why that's what it is within you? That's why that's why they're the black sheep of the family. All right, let's see what time is it. Oh man, I haven't even gotten to TPS. All right, so what you guys need to start doing, right? So start looking on the 21st. That means we're heading into October. So on this worksheet, if you're going to be playing earnings, you need to start looking at October's earnings for 2 weeks out, right? So start looking at this column for 2 weeks out. We got BBBY. That would be Thursday, October 1st. That means 2 weeks out for BBBY is the 24th of September. So you come in and you look at the chart and you're like, all right, well, let's check it out. Oh, wow. So look at this, BBBY. It's just hard for me to long this stock. But forgetting about what it is, you know what? We've got a nice TPS going. It keeps trying to break through. Yeah, maybe if we can break through this. So there's two ways that I would buy this, trying to play these stats, is if we get a drop down to the 21 EMA or we get a break above and a retest. So anyway, I'm just showing you that you need to be ahead of the game to say, hey, 2 weeks before, J&J, JPM, you know, keep in mind, well, those are for a while. This one's the closest one. So always be checking 2 weeks ahead on these stats. All right, let's jump to some other plays. Any other questions? Let's see. Is there an email list you send the watch list to? Also, any chance of getting a not live version of the Excel sheet to play with on our own? Enter the names and data to learn. Absolutely, Justin. Here, I'll post a link in here. Let me pull up Dropbox here. Let's see. Let's go to stocks. Yeah, I'll just workbook. You can just download this, buddy, and just play with it. And as far as the watch list, it's emailed out. Wait, is that the link? Let me make sure that's the right link. Copy Dropbox link. Yeah, that's it. Tell me if that link doesn't work. That should just take you right to my Dropbox file of one of my workbooks, and you can download it and kind of play with it yourself. So look, my buddy in here, Matt, he's got access to it. He's already editing this for me. Love it. So he's getting October's stats. What he's doing, what Matt's doing, he's in the Discord room that I'm in that has, you know, between 12 and 20 people. It kind of goes up and down, but he's putting in these stats for me so that it will auto-populate on the home tab once we put in the name. What we're looking to do is when we see a stock that we like, so let's just say in October, if we wanted to play JPM, you can see that it has a nice run into it. What we're looking to do is, all we have to do is come over here and type in JPM, and then it's going to autofill everything for us, just to make it easier. So that's what we're working on. All right, so let's see. Back to MU. All right, so I'm going to pull this over here and kind of go through some charts for you guys, what I'm looking at. Now, Roku. Let me just pull up. So you can see Roku's right here at its all-time highs, right? It tried breaking and failed and rejected. Now remember double tops, right? Well, what are triple tops? If we can get a triple top going, I think we might actually be able to break through and hold. We'll see. The problem is Netflix is a premium candidate for a short. I mean, this is like, me as a short seller, I'm like drooling. And what I did was, Nate, so if we were to look at this chart right here, look, every dip is bought up. Bam, bam. Looks like we're going to come back up and break. We're going to break through this anchor VWAP and go, right? Well, all this is Netflix upside down. That's all it is. So if we were to flip this chart upside down, it looks like a great long. Every pop is getting sold into, and now we're coming down and we're below this volume profile area. And so any pop, if we can get a break here, we're going to go even lower. So I'm looking, it's kind of ironic, I'm looking to short Netflix and long Roku, right? So take that for what it's worth. They should kind of go hand in hand, but the chart on Roku is it's a good 195-minute squeeze. It's got good support. Let me actually pull it over. Wait, yeah. So it's got good support. You see how it's coming up on this ascending triangle here? Basically, that's what that is. Here, I know it's harder to see, but you have an ascending triangle forming here, the line here, with the top here. And that's what this is. I forget I had this pin, right? Here, here, not great lines. Pop, failed, come back down, test this, so if we can get a trick top and go. So that's the idea with Roku. Follow the TPS rules on that. All right, so Roku 195. Now another one, guys, that I've been playing a lot is ZM. And the way you have to play these is you have to look for shorter time frames. And so I have my list of stocks that I play and I keep track of, and I have my favorites, right? So just put it on something where it'll be, you can keep an eye on it and you can see if any shorter time frame squeezes start to set up, like a 5-minute starts to set up, then you can play it. But this ZM has been gangbuster even when the market's gone down. So that's going to be on my watch. Now, Tesla battery day, everybody knows it. So what do you think is going to happen on Tuesday on Tesla? I'm guessing it's going to be a sell the news event. But maybe on Monday we can catch a ride into it. I personally, with so many retail traders being out there, I think they're just going to keep buying into it. So I still think there's opportunities on Monday only. Put that in there. If I can catch some squeeze. W is a very high short, and it's starting to make this rounding pattern. And so I've got that on the watch list to watch. You can see here it's got a TTM squeeze setting up. Now keep in mind, do you see this 300 level? That's going to be some resistance, some mental resistance, and you've got these people trapped. So what I'm looking to have happen here is we'll probably come close, reject, come back down, hit this support area, and start to create that. That's what I'm looking for. So on a pullback, honestly, I'm looking, you see how the 8 is just now crossing up the 21 on the 195. Those are the things that we play against, right? So what I'm looking for on this, I actually want it to come back down and catch the 21. So I've got an alert set on this to try to play it off the 21, which would be about here, to go long. So W off the 21, EMA on 195. Oh, Matt, thank you. Here, that's great. Great info. So Roku has got, I'm just going to copy and paste all this in here. You guys see how it works when you work as a team? All right. Perfect. I love it. All right. All right, I got about 5 minutes. I'm going to try to whip through some of these other ones. All right, so Peloton. Peloton, I don't know if you guys can see the camera. I can't see my camera, but so Peloton on Friday was one that was like my number one setup for a longer term squeeze. Basically using the 50 simple moving average as a support, and I had the idea of just longer term, everybody staying home, coronavirus names, it's setting up, it had good earnings. And so Peloton is on watch, same idea for these squeezes. It's got a 195, a 130. You know how we look for stacked squeezes, the 2 hour and the 78. So you see how we got all these stacked squeezes going on Peloton? So again, follow the rules. Wait for a pullback if you didn't get in on Friday. Wait for a pullback to the 8, at least, minimum. And these purple lines, those are anchored VWAPs from different swing lows. That's all that is. So if we can get a pullback to that area, that's where I'm looking to get in. Let me actually pull this over to my my bigger screen and get some good lines in there. All right. So really, once I zoom in, if yeah, about that 83, if we can get it at 84-ish range, I think that'll be great. So that's what I'd be looking for, guys, is now what you have to realize with these guys is if we don't get a pull to this range, I'm still going to play this. If it's too strong, but I'm going to play it on shorter term time frames. So I'll switch to, and this is how Nate does it with his Lotto X, right? He switches to, well, look, there's a 30-minute squeeze that we could have played, right? And bam, look what it did. So if this is showing more strength and it looks like it wants to come up here to go higher, I'm switching down to a shorter time frame. But ultimately, if I can get this for around 84, which would be right around the 8 on the 195. Let's see. So many lines. Hold on one sec. So it'd be around the 21. So between the 8 and the 21, yeah, that would be golden. That's like A plus. I don't know if you guys, for those that know Anant, he plays a very safe plays. That's the Anant play. it's a safer play. Yeah, you're right. And so I wish I could switch screens with you, but once I zoom in, once I get it on my bigger screen and I look at the support, the top side of that support is pretty heavily at basically 86. And the bottom side is 84. So there's a lot of support between 84 and 86. The AP, we call it the knot play. It's just safe. So a knot would look to pick it up around 84. I would be a little bit more aggressive. I don't mind being a little bit more aggressive than not. All right. Let's see. Peloton. Let me see if it's Howard. All right, it's 12. I'm going to go through a couple other ones real quick. Chewy, I think I already talked about. They did an offering. I'm looking to put a vertical push spread on this. They did this offering around, I think it was around 55, but it was pretty dilutive for the float. So what I'm looking for is candles like this. You see how it's wicking down and it's coming up? So if I can catch another wick down to set a vertical put spread for about a 50-50, around 50 to 52.50, that's what I'm looking for in Chewy. So ring, you guys see this right here? These three candles, bam, bam, bam. This can be a very powerful reversal signal, but you have to wait for confirmation. You see this long wick? I mean, look at that. I'd like to be the guy that bought this at 229, the low of that day. I mean, you're already up 30 bucks, 29, 39, 49, 59. Yeah, you're already up 30 bucks if you bought it there. So confirmation for this candle would be a break over this high, right? That's telling you, and a break over the 8. And that would be just, this is purely technical analysis. It has nothing to do with squeezes. So you're setting up kind of a morning star here, reversal possibly with this wick. So if it can break above the 8 and start to hold, I'm starting to look for this as support. Now keep in mind, if it doesn't confirm, this becomes the shelf that it'll drop off of. Let's see. SPX we already talked about. So RH, guys, what I want to show you on RH, what I'm looking for on RH, you guys see this anchored VWAP? You see how it's holding it down? Bam, 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 bam. It just can't quite get through. I'm waiting for this to break. So you guys know how I play. There's two ways to play RH right now. You can buy it off of this support down here, right? This area, which you can. I'm not going to. I'm actually having this on watch for a break. Once this breaks above this anchored VWAP and it starts to get above this volume profile level, you're going to have a retest opportunity, and that's where I'm going to play it, right there. So that's what I'm looking for on RH. All right, so Netflix we already talked about. Z, guys, Z is just, I've been playing this. I love this chart. You know, it's got good amount of short float in it. The industry is killing it. We're over 90. We're going to break or at least test 100. You know, once you get into the 90 range, the chances of you testing 100 is high. Again, I have this on my watch list to play shorter time frames. We've got one setting up on the hourly. And now you just have to follow the TPS rules. So that's Z. And one of them I want to talk about is MGM, because I'm currently in MGM, and this is a great example of how I play. So I bought down here at the 21. I sold. I did it live. I said we need to sell here at resistance, right? The next, it was up here. It was. I bought here and sold up here. The next day, it got down to 22. Or I'm sorry, it got down and went down to 22, which is the next support. I bought at support, and guess what I did at resistance? I sold it. I'm a buyer on support and a seller on resistance, and this is how you farm these names. So I'm currently still playing this MGM 195. Do you see how many times we've rejected up here? So I am farming this name until we can get up here and break. So that's MGM. Another one that I'm in that Kyle actually got in, I'm in this one. This is simply a chart play. I think the guys in the Discord room, we went over this, and we got in it earlier this day. We did some digging on it to figure out what was going on. They had basically a short report coming out saying that their frauds are not good. And you can see what happened to the chart. I mean, it was just going gangbuster and then just got hammered. So this is kind of like a dead cat bounce, catching a falling knife, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm currently in this one. I'm only in it, I think, 800 shares because I didn't get filled all the way. But I still think this one, if this one can get over this area, you see this volume profile area here, we might get some room. We might get some legs to run. So keep that one on watch. And let's see, SE is another one that I have on watch. It's actually held up pretty well. The earnings were good. If this starts putting in some higher highs here, it's got a 195-minute squeeze. We're above these swing low anchored VWAP area. It's holding. Same thing. I'm looking to start breaking above this. Now, guys, keep in mind, a lot of people think the market's going to roll over. We're going to pop into next week and roll over. If we're rolling over, it's just hard to make long work. It's just not going to work. You look for stocks that have divergence and you go with those. All right, I'm going to pause the recording. Let me stop this recording, and then I'm going to get to the questions so that the recording's only an hour.